Welcome to our city. I'm Alonzo Jones, sitting in for Mayor Bowledge, and here's what's going on this week around our city. On Wednesday, March 15th at 5 p.m., Mayor Bowledge will attend the Greater Elizabeth Chamber of Commerce Business After Hours Networking event, which will take place at the Wise Buffet located at 711 East 1st Street in Roselle. Following that event at 7 p.m., Mayor Bowledge will join the members of the Portuguese community at their Marshall Session ceremony, which will be held at the Arches Hall, 935 Bond Street. On Saturday, March 18th at 9 a.m., Mayor Bowledge will attend the National Council of Negro Women's 12th Annual Harambe Breakfast at the Renaissance Hotel, which is located at 1000 Spring Street here in Elizabeth. Later that evening at 6:30 p.m., Mayor Bowledge will attend the Portuguese Instructive Social Club's 95th anniversary reception. The event will feature music and a show for all to enjoy. For more information, please contact the Portugal Day Committee at 908-355-1222. If you need more information concerning these events or any others, please contact the Public Information Office at 908-820-4124. We'll be back with this week's segment after these words. Thank you.
Offering everything you could want from college, including a life. Kane University.
This week we're going to discuss the Children's Specialized Hospital and the great works that takes place there. And joining me to do so is Philip Salerno. Good afternoon, how are you?
Good, Alonzo. Thank you for the chance to be here.
You are the president and CDO at Children's Specialized Hospital.
CDO stands for Chief Development Officer, so I'm responsible for the fundraising that the hospital does.
How long have you been with the hospital now?
Since 1987. I thought I would come and work there for 2 years and find something closer to home in Bergen County, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. And as it comes to the Children's Specialized Hospital, when did it first open its doors?
Well, our history actually dates back to 1891, and we were started by a group of women from the churches in the Westfield area. Not really as an organization to serve children with disabilities, really started just as almost a fresh air fund type facility to bring kids from the inner city to come out and spend the summer and then go back home again after that.
And when it started, was it always known as the Children's Specialized Hospital, or was it another name for it?
No, that's a great question. It actually used to be Children's Country Home until I believe it was 1962 when we changed our name.
Any reason why they went with Country Home? Do you know or you don't know?
No, I don't. It's just been a part of our history. When you look back to 1891, I think it's hard to think about Mountainside and Westfield being country now when you look out across the our building from rooftops of houses. But it was when we look at some of the old photos from the late 1800s, there was nothing, and there was nothing anywhere near us.
So how did it start, and who started it?
Started by a group of women. As I said, they got together just at the home of one of the residents in town. And all of that, there was no Mountainside at the time. Everything was all Westfield. And they got together and decided they wanted to do something to help children. And that's how they formed Children's Country Home. And until the mid to late 50s, it was all run by volunteers. There was no staff that was, the governing organization and the staff were all volunteers. Not the nurses, obviously, but the leadership was a volunteer.
As we talk about the beginning of the hospital, was every illness pertaining to children? Was everything seen there or no?
So it's interesting. At the very beginning of when we started, it was pneumonia and influenza that were killing children. That's what we treated. And then after that, when polio became an epidemic, we exclusively served children with polio until the Salk vaccine was developed. And after that is when our volunteer leaders, the board of trustees, came together and they looked at the options of should they close, should they become an adult nursing home, or should they recommit to a broader range of children with disabilities? And fortunately for all the thousands of children we've treated since then, that was the path they chose to take.
And at that time, what was the number of children they were seeing, do you know?
Oh, I would imagine in the hundreds. Even as late as, or as recently as 2000, we were treating about 2,000 children a year. Right. Now that number, in 2016, we treated over 30,000 children throughout New Jersey, all 21 counties, plus children from New York and Philadelphia. And every year there's a handful of different countries that are represented.
Right. We know medicine has advanced and evolved over the years, and numbers have changed. Give us an idea of what Children's Specialized Hospital does today.
So right now we operate 13 sites around the state of New Jersey, as far south as Egg Harbor in Atlantic County, as far north as Clifton and Bayonne, and in between we're in Mountainside, Roselle, Fanwood, New Brunswick, which is where we have PSE&G Children's Specialized Hospital, which is our main inpatient hospital. And we're engaged right now in a campaign to raise $30 million.
Wow.
Around three core areas: access, technology, and research. Access around the issues of, we realize that for all the number of children that we treat, the 30,000 children, we know that there are thousands more out there who would benefit from our care. So we're looking at how we can increase access to families. So we've done things like we've set up a portal for parents that they can manage their child's health care. We've increased the number of outpatient centers. We're looking now at where else to grow and where else we can go to serve a significant number of children. We're using technology because every time we open an outpatient center, we find ourselves with a waiting list of children in a reasonably short period of time. So we're using robots and telemedicine to try to allow us to treat more children and free up more spaces, maybe in those off hours, but also so families don't have to travel as much to get to one of our sites to do that. And then on the research component, we have about 50 different projects that our own staff are involved in throughout our system. And then we also have a formal partnership with the Kessler Foundation up in West Orange, where we're utilizing the expertise of their scientists and researchers combined with the patient population we have, all with the intent of providing a better level of care and making sure that the techniques that we use can deliver the best outcomes.
As technology has evolved also, you mentioned the portal. How does that work for a family?
So families can now manage their child's health care. They have access to their child's medical records. They can schedule their own appointments. Amy Mansu, who was our president for 12 years, would say, if I can book a flight online, why can't I schedule my child's doctor's appointment? And so now they all have that opportunity to do that.
Okay. And what are some of the services are provided by Children's Specialized Hospital?
So that's actually a harder question than you might think because of the broad range of services that we offer. So we're licensed to the state defines pediatrics as children age 0 to 21. And so we've got that entire range that we're treating. So we have children who are born premature who are then transferred from an acute care hospital once they're stable because they may have some complications, get transferred to our hospital in New Brunswick. We have children who are involved in accidents and may suffer either a spinal cord injury or a traumatic brain injury. There are a host of congenital conditions that our patients have that I've never heard of before, and amazingly our physicians know how to treat them. So that covers the broad range on a lot of the inpatient work that we do. We also have a chronic illness program for children who have maybe cerebral palsy or spina bifida. They have ongoing medical needs that are not going to go away, but they need that constant care. And we found that in the absence of our program, parents were running to multiple physicians to try to manage their child's care, but there wasn't a lot of coordination going on. So now we coordinate that care for that patient and their family, which has a variety of benefits. Better outcomes for the child, because before that, parents were waiting until their child was so sick they had to go to the emergency room. So their child now enjoys better health, which means there's less absences from school, which means there's less absences for the parents because they don't have to take off from work as much because of an emergency.
With all the services we're talking about and you've mentioned, who's really benefiting from this?
I can't tell you in the 30 years I've been at the hospital the number of times where I've received feedback either directly from a parent who I happen to know or in the form of a letter or a note where parents will write and say, when I found Children's Specialized, my heart found hope. So sometimes having that diagnosis is better than not, because now once a family has that diagnosis, they know what it is, what the game is that they're in. They know what kind of care they need, what kind of physicians they need to be able to help with that.
And how many children are being serviced right now at CSH?
Well, probably at Mountainside, which is our closest outpatient center to here, we have it's a very active outpatient center. So we'll probably treat several thousand children, 3,000 to 4,000 children there on an annual basis. and the 30,000 is split all over. So we've got children from Newark. We actually treat have treated last year over 1,300 children from Elizabeth itself, who have come to us for care for attention deficit issues, autism, orthopedic issues. It's a whole range of things that we offer.
So with that number, and you touched on it briefly, but what types of programs do you offer for those patients?
So it's interesting. On the strictly clinical side, we have a complete range of rehabilitative services. We don't do surgery, and we don't have an emergency room.
Okay.
But at the same time, we have speech, occupational, physical therapies. We have a recreation therapy program, child life on the inpatient side, plus developmental pediatrics, which is a huge issue for us. Issue in the sense of we just can't keep up with the need. Right. Even though we probably employ more developmental pediatricians than any other hospital in the state of New Jersey, and it's still not enough. So they're very busy, in the course of their day. We have pediatric neurologists, pediatric physiatrists, which is the practice of physical medicine. So think of a discipline, and we probably offer it.
Based on the clients you deal with, you have to have a special, and I guess that's where specialized comes from in another sense, but a special staff to deal with this on a day-to-day basis.
Alonzo, you're absolutely right. One of the things that happened when we tour, so I do a lot of tours, being in the fundraising field, there's lots of opportunities to bring donors or prospective donors or just friends through the hospital to see. Right. And typically they comment on two things. They're all amazed at how clean everything is. Even just yesterday, we were talking with some folks who said, it looks like you could eat off the floor here. Like they just have such a the floors have such a high shine, and you don't find papers laying on the ground. And the second thing they comment on, even on just a short walk through the hospital, is guests will pick up on the intense level of caring that happens among our staff. And story after story of children and families who come in, or families who come in where their child was treated someplace else and was just a patient. Right. And then they come to us and they're a little boy or a little girl, and they're treated like a person and not a number that's being admitted. But it is amazing.
And that means a lot to it.
It really does. Right. It really does, because we engage everybody, right? Our physicians, our nurses, our therapists, everybody makes a contribution to that child's welfare, well-being, and that opportunity to reach their maximum ability, whatever that is for them. And it's more of a passion than a job.
Exactly. And you mentioned fundraising. So what's some of the fundraisers that are held throughout the year? So
we have a host of fundraisers. We run our own walkathon that we do at Johnson Park in Piscataway near our hospital in New Brunswick. We also have a golf outing that we do in Central Jersey, and then we have an annual gala. And this year's gala will be October 27th at World Trade Center 4 in the city, looking across the river at all of New Jersey. But we're actually very fortunate because of our relationship with the Elizabeth PBA that we do some fundraising. They do some fundraising on our behalf right here in town. So Paul Pasternak and his whole team from the Elizabeth PBA does the Jingle Bell Run every December. And if there's two things you can count on, it's going to be really cold and windy, and about just shy of a mile into the race, you have to go up over a bridge and then back across that bridge. That bridge is, to me, is like Heartbreak Hill.
Now, the past year before, it was kind of warm out there.
Yeah, not this year, not so much. So, but you know what, they gave out 2 years ago, I guess it was, they gave out these great wool hats and these really lightweight gloves that I wear all the time now. They are just perfect. I didn't realize how cold my hands were until I started wearing those gloves.
But as you use the term passion, the police have a real passion for that event, and they love putting in time or whatever it takes to make that happen.
Yeah, they do a great job. Last year they had over 235 runners and walkers are there, and the mayor is always there, which is, I'm always impressed at his generosity of spirit and the time commitment he makes to do that. And Stephen Baker, the touchdown maker from the Giants, is there. And he's there with his Giants jersey on, taking pictures of everybody else. Meanwhile, my friends come and they want to take a picture with him. So it's a great event.
Good. We're going to take a break.
Sure.
And we'll come back and talk about some more of the great works happening over there.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll be back with the second half of our city to talk some more about the Children's Specialized Hospital after these words. Thank you.
We're an American original. Dependable. Historic, nuanced, with all the comforts of home, even when you're just visiting. So we're celebrating for all that we've left untouched and all that we've changed. A place where the past meets the future. So consider this your invitation.
We've been celebrating here in Elizabeth for 350 years, and we're just getting started.
Welcome back to the second half of our city, and we're discussing the Children's Specialized Hospital. One quick question for you. What are some of the ways to give?
People can give any way they choose to. If they choose to make a cash contribution, they can even do that on our website by going to www.childrens-specialized.org and make a contribution online if they want. They can also volunteer online or register to volunteer. Our volunteer program is really very active and makes a huge difference for the hospital and our staff. You can register online, you can get an application, you can fill it out and come and volunteer with us. You don't have to have a medical background. We have a lot of students who are either involved in some type of a peer leadership program or have some type of community service obligations. We have people who are retirees. We have people who can come in on a weekend, and they do everything from a pet therapy program to sitting and holding babies to hosting parties for them.
We talked about the Jingle Bell Run. Throughout this, in the city of Elizabeth, what's some other fundraiser events that take place?
So that there are a couple of things. The other is actually it just happened last weekend, was the Battle of the Badges, where I know you know this, right? But it's, to me, it's kind of amazing, right? It's a great event. The Elizabeth PBA faces off against the Elizabeth Fire Department in a hockey game at Warrenanko Park.
Right.
Now, I can't imagine firemen and policemen going at it, but I think it's better for me to be behind the glass.
It's a nice, friendly game, and
sure
they play their hearts out.
They do, and you know what? They've raised a lot of money. They've raised over $21,000 in 5 years playing hockey for our benefit, and then. Just to jump back to the Jingle Bell Run, that's raised over $35,000, I think it is, in the same period of time, all to support Children's Specialized. And I think what's really important is that the residents of Elizabeth know where that money goes. So it actually stays right in the community. So what happens is a lot of that money gets used to support our Friday Night Fever program, which is a social activity, social recreation program for adolescents and teenagers. And they get together, and that sponsors some of their programming. And then in December, for the holidays, Friday Night Fever, that event is hosted at Jersey Gardens. And so the Jersey Gardens mall staff partner with the Elizabeth PBA and the fire department, and what happens is every one of our children who comes in is matched up with an officer who becomes their shopping buddy, and they get to go out and do their holiday shopping and then get their gifts wrapped, and it's just become one of those holiday traditions for our patients and families, and I'm sure for the PBA.
Off camera, we discussed some of the things you did with some of the nonprofits here at Jefferson Park Daycare. Tell us about that event.
Yeah, we have a program sponsored by Coles. It's the Coles Autism Awareness Hub. So you can actually go again onto our website, childrens-specialized.org, and access the Coles Autism Hub, and it's just a great resource to help educate people about children with autism. And then what we've done, and it's sponsored in conjunction with Coles, is we've done 2 free developmental screenings in town, and these are, the family would come, they don't get a diagnosis, but they're with our clinicians, our therapists, who will take their child through a brief, I think it's a 30-minute evaluation, and just give that mom, dad, guardian, grandmother, grandfather, whomever it may be, some indication. If everything is well, then we're more than happy to say, great, go right ahead. But if there's something that our clinicians detect that may need further evaluation, then we refer the family back to their local pediatrician to get help. And one of the things that we found, and we do a lot of these in daycare centers, preschools, that almost 55% of the children who we've seen have identified some type of a deficit in a particular area where it's required additional review by a pediatrician.
So the 125th anniversary is coming up.
Yeah.
What's some of the celebrations you have planned?
So we're actually in the middle of it right now. We started it in the spring, and we'll wrap it up this spring. But we've done a number of different things. We started off with our walk and roll in Piscataway, which is just a great way for people to get involved if they want to come and participate and walk. And kind of make a statement in support of
Right.
children with special needs. We've also done parties at all of our employee sites. So we've given each group of employees at each of our sites a kit that they can use to create their own party based on what they want. So we've had some really unique opportunities and some really unique celebrations based on what staff wants to do. And then we've been working with Gannett newspapers as well to publish, just to do an ongoing series of publications or stories about our patients and our families.
So if someone is not in the medical field, can they still volunteer?
Most of our volunteers are not in the medical field. Most of them come from very diverse backgrounds. We have chemical engineers and homemakers and retired police officers, people from all different walks of life who come in to volunteer. And I don't remember the exact number, but we've had tens of thousands of volunteers on any given basis. And the average value for a volunteer's time is about $26.40. There's an organization based out of Washington, D.C. that sets a value every year. So every hour that a person comes to volunteer with us is like giving us $26.
Wow.
And it amounts to hundreds of thousands of dollars of volunteer service that we receive on an annual basis from people who, through just the goodness in their heart and their willingness to give back to their community, come and volunteer with us. So we have we talked about some of our programming before. We have a martial arts program. We have an aquatics program. We have several different community recreation programs that volunteers are integral to those programs. If we didn't have the volunteer support that we do, we wouldn't be able to offer those programs to the patients that we serve. So volunteers are critical to what we do.
So as a hospital that continues to grow, what new things are happening over at the hospital?
So we're continuing to work on expansion, identifying the next outpatient center where there's a critical need of children. Right now, with what we have in Mountainside, which is only 15 minutes from here, in our outpatient center in Newark, by Newark Beth Israel, we sort of have Elizabeth somewhat surrounded on a couple of sides with relatively easy access for families to get to us. So we're looking at where do we expand. We're continuing to explore technology. I don't need to tell you, technology changes so fast that we're finding we're exploring new ways to be able to treat patients, to be able to offer them the help and assistance they need in the most convenient way to be able to do that. And then our research component continues to grow.
What is the number of children you service here in Elizabeth?
Somewhere over 1,300 that we serve.
And are they based on referrals, or do they come to you first? How does that work?
Most of the children who come to us, the overwhelming majority of them, typically are referred to us by their pediatrician. The pediatrician will see something they're not sure about, or maybe even give a diagnosis, but the child needs ongoing therapy. And that, when families come to us, they literally become part of the children's specialized family, because it's not like if you or I go to the physician, we have a sprained leg, right? You go, you see the doctor, and gives you a prescription of what to do, maybe tells you to go to physical therapy. You go for a couple of times, you're done, your leg's better. In our case, the children that we serve are there for an ongoing basis for months, sometimes for years.
Right.
So we've actually had patients who, they reach age 21, and there's some anxiety on the parents' part because their child's been treated with us maybe since they were a few months old.
Right.
Same doctor, same set of nurses, same set of therapists. Now they've aged out of pediatrics, and they've got to find another place to go.
And what type of services do you offer there? How are they treated?
In general?
Yeah, what type of services do those children receive from Elizabeth?
From Elizabeth? They're, knowing the high percentage of children we treat with autism, I'm sure they're involved in that. And sometimes that may just be a matter of monitoring medication levels. Could be a matter of speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, where they would come in to see that. And the way we're structured, hopefully, the objective is that families can find an outpatient center close to them, so it minimizes the travel that they have to do.
Right. So you have inpatient service, outpatient service, and specialty service? What specialty service?
So our inpatients are in New Brunswick. We have 68 beds in New Brunswick for inpatient care. Average length of stay there is about 31 days. On the outpatient side, which is what we offer at all of the other sites around the state, that's typically occupational therapy, physical, speech. and then physician services, which means that's where you can go to get a diagnosis. So you don't have to go to New Brunswick to get a diagnosis or come to Mountainside. You can get that done at any of our other most of our other outpatient centers. Some of the other specialty services we didn't really talk about is we actually offer we have a long-term care program, which in essence is a nursing home for children. So it's a residential type facility, again, where they can stay with us up until just prior to their 22nd birthday. But what we found, though, before we opened this in the early 90s was there were patients who we were treating who no longer needed to be in a hospital in a pediatric rehabilitation with a rehabilitation component to it, but they were too involved to be cared for at home.
Right.
And they were being sent to adult nursing homes, which is fine if you're an adult, but one thing we found is one size doesn't fit all. And the level of care a pediatric long-term care patient needs is different than a geriatric long-term care patient. So we actually have a unit for that in Mountainside and another down in Toms River.
Is there such a thing as a medical daycare?
Yeah, that's our program in Roselle Park.
Okay.
That we offer, and that's kids who are ill, kids who have chronic conditions, not ill, but have chronic conditions, who need some level of nursing care, but also an educational component. And they'd be able to come to our Roselle Park facility. And what that does is it gives the parents the assurance that their child is being well cared for by a team of professionals, and allows them to go to work, care for their other children, go on with their life at the same, just as while their child would be in school, just as any other parent would look to do.
And what are some of the organizations that you work alongside with in Elizabeth?
Mostly the three prime ones really are the Elizabeth PBA, the fire department, and then the team at Simon's Mall, which has just been very generous to us on a variety of occasions and levels. We actually were involved with one organization, Kids Helping Kids, where we did a walkathon in the mall one time, which was great because it was accessible, easy for those kids who may not be ambulatory. They were able to get around the mall, and then there's always the fun of shopping later on.
Right.
And that's one of the Jingle Bell Run. You get you go to any road race, you get a giveaway bag of stuff, right? So the stuff at the Jingle Bell Run, coupons for shopping, and you can shop on a Sunday morning before the mall gets packed. It's a good deal. And what store is not at the Jersey Gardens Mall? Like, they've got everything.
Exactly.
There. So
if someone wanted more information or to volunteer or contribute, what's the best number or the website? How can they find you?
Best way to find us would be to go to our website, which is children's, plural, no apostrophe, children's-specialized.org.
Okay. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Enjoyed you and learned quite a bit today.
Thanks, Alonzo. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for joining us for this segment. I want to thank Philip for joining us also, and we'll join you next week on another segment of Our City. Thank you.
Sometimes you learn by helping others learn. Kane University.